For the past 10 years or so, my long-term storage solution has been anything but glamorous. In fact, it's probably a little bit messy, but it's worked up until now. Essentially what I had was small jump drives, 5 terabytes, 6 terabytes, that you could buy at big box retailers, and then I would put a sticky note on the front of it saying what was on the particular drive. Now, I've got some projects this year that are spanning over several different months, and one of the things that would be really handy for these projects is being able to store them myself, but then also sending a login link to the client to where they could review the footage and make notes, make script changes, etc. So knowing that these shoots were coming up, I went to NAB with A, the intent to find my new cinema camera, and B, to see if there was anything in the network storage that was interesting and that would fit my solution. When I was at NAB, I found a booth from a company called Ugreen, and they had several different NAS units on display, but there was one that was really interesting to me, and that was the DXP6800 Pro. While I was there, I got to talk with them, and they walked me through their software and their backend, and it was a perfect fit for what I wanted to do. Just for total transparency, they did send me this unit to test, but I bought all of the storage myself, which is honestly the most expensive part. But really, this was the system that I wanted to get into irregardless because of the features of it and because of the way that the software works. When I was at NAB and they were walking me through the software, I was impressed with how simple that these NASs were to plug and play essentially. I had looked at other NAS systems in the past and it just seemed a little bit too complicated. I'm a camera guy and I'm interested in cameras. I have to do storage by necessity of the job, but it's not something that's just my passion. So what I liked about their NAS systems is that they offered a very comprehensive software that came with it, but also some very impressive features on the technical side. And so I talked with my DIT friend and he looked into these NASs and he was pretty impressed. In fact, there's some other brands right now, some of the more popular ones that are now requiring some of their NAS systems to only run on their own drives, which is disappointing. These keep that open source feel with being able to use other brands of drives, but also keep everything all in one with their own software. Being essentially plug and play was something that was really exciting to me, but the other thing that was really exciting was the ability to create multiple users. And with their backend, you're able to log into your NAS from essentially anywhere in the world. Ugreen offers a list of different NAS units, so let's talk about why I went with the 6800 Pro. Now, whenever I was looking at these, I was debating between the DXP4800 Plus and the 6800 Pro. Now, the DXP4800 Plus is their most popular model, and it's the one that I found the most reviews on, so I had been really interested in that system since I came home and started researching. It offers a lot of the same features as their larger models. It's got two 10 gigabit Ethernet ports, USBs, HDMI, USB-C on the front, and a really powerful CPU. But every year from different projects, I have about 20 terabytes that I need to store long term. So I wanted something that I would be able to grow with over time. Now let's introduce the DXP6800 Pro. That's the one that I went with for a number of different reasons. The first being that all my friends that I talk to recommend that I get a 6-bay system just for longevity and for how many projects that I'm going through a year. The 6800 offered me the flexibility to continually upgrade and expand that. When I was talking with Ugreen at the booth, they were explaining the processors in the 6800 Pro. Now that was something that I didn't realize was the most important thing, but I learned that it is because it helps with the processing of doing multiple transfers at once. The NAS unit has its own UI and software that's running on it. It can open documents. It's got an AI feature to where it can scan photos. So there's actually a lot of processing happening in the NAS unit itself. All that being said, the processing power in this unit and talking with them helped me really feel comfortable sticking with this unit for the next several years. I feel very confident that it will be able to handle the processing power of simultaneous transfers and offloads as well as multiple users. Why did I go with a NAS system over just using cloud storage? For one, it's all local and I know that it's secure. And two, it avoids the bottleneck of uploading to the cloud. Whenever I'm uploading from my SSD into my NAS system, I can get a peak of 1200 megabytes a second. Really, I'm getting sustained around 800 or 900 megabytes a second with the drives that I'm using. And it solves the issue of another subscription for me, having to pay more and more for cloud storage as I continue to grow in the cloud and as stuff just continually gets more expensive. This is a fixed one-time cost that I can have, and then I can create multiple users and send these files to my clients. So essentially, I feel like I'm building my own cloud for my own work. This system can do up to 160 terabytes, but the way that I have it rated in RAID 5, I've got it at 93 terabytes, which is plenty for me. And in fact, I don't know any time that I want to upload 93 terabytes to the cloud. But if I ever get close to the 93 terabytes, what I'll do is I'll just offload old projects onto a different long-term storage solution, maybe like my sticky note system. Now, why I chose to go with Ugreen over others was one, because of the reviews that I had seen, the recommendation from my DIT and my friends, but two, also some of the apps that are included on this. The software itself has an app gallery. It's got a variation of different apps that are included that you can install, and they're continually adding more, which I thought was cool for future-proofing. It's also got an AI album assist, which I plan to upload some family memories to it, so that'd be cool to be able to search through family members, animals, and stuff like that. And though I really want to avoid cloud work for most of my stuff, it does have the ability for it to sync with your own cloud, like Google Drive or something like that, which I think is cool because as a business, I'm already paying for Google Drive storage, so I may just enable it and have it upload its stuff to the cloud for the time being. So at least it's in two different places, one being on the cloud and one being here locally. Another cool thing is that the NAS itself can open raw files, and so if I send a link to a client, they can look at it on their desktop without any additional software. And then the last thing that I love about this NAS system is the app. I'm able to check the status of all of my drives, view files, and everything from my phone, which honestly, I think is one of the coolest backends of this system. Now I want to talk about tips that I learned while I was setting this up. So whenever I first unboxed it, you have a very pleasant and high-end unboxing experience. I was really impressed with how well manufactured the unit was. In fact, whenever I was taking off the door, there's a spring-loaded pin on the bottom that opens the door for the M.2s that I'm using for my own cache. First things first, if you value your data, you need to have this set up on a UPS. And I just went with the generic Amazon UPS. Now, I'm not sure that it's the best thing in the world, but for now, it's going to get me by. So essentially, the system is plug and play. You put your drives in the base slots. They're very user intuitive. You just slide them in. And then on the bottom, if you've got your M.2s, you insert those, and then you open up the app. Now, for me, I had to update the system before I started the app, so I updated the system, and then I started putting everything in its own configuration. I set this up in RAID 5, and that was something that was recommended to me by both my friends with RAID systems as well as my DIT. It felt like the most bang for the buck, if you will. Now, something that I learned whenever I set this up is you can check each and every drive to its entirety, which takes 3 to 5 days, or you can skip that. It's a little bit riskier, but essentially you have the NAS system to use immediately. So if you're needing to use your NAS immediately, you can set it to check those drives later and not wait 3 to 5 days. You can essentially format the drives and you can use it in a couple minutes. Another thing that I learned about was what types of drives to use. Now, whenever you're putting hard drives into a NAS system, you have to get NAS rated drives or else the motor might burn up, but there's also particular ones that work really well. And what I kept finding was people recommending the Iron Wolf Pros by Seagate. Now, one thing that you need to know is there's several different types of these, and the one that I went with was the NT001. Now, I went with that for a couple different reasons. They are slightly more expensive than some of the other variations, but these are enclosed hard drives and they're enclosed in helium, which helps them dissipate heat better. They offload faster and upload faster, and overall they're rated for a longer life than the other Iron Wolf drives. Now, something else that I did was add in M.2s on the bottom for my own cache. And I set these up as a read-write cache, which really enables you to offload footage a lot faster. Essentially what it does is it offloads to the SSDs, and then the SSDs offload to the HDDs. Ugreen has a list of approved M.2s that you can use for the cache system, but the ones that I went with were the Samsung 990 Pros. They seemed like the best bang for the buck. Now, to enable device connection, like using the app or giving a client the login information they can access from anywhere, you need to enable remote access, which you can find here. If you're on a Mac, another thing that you may want to do is if you want your drive to show up as a hard drive on your desktop, you'll need to enable the SMB, and then you'll need to go to your Finder and then enable network drives. And then the last thing that I would recommend to do is to go to your security and then enable auto block IP after so many failed attempts. To summarize, the reason that I decided to invest in a NAS is because A, it keeps everything local and under my control, and B, it helps me avoid the bottleneck of the cloud. And then the reason that I went with this particular system is that I've watched a lot of different reviews from different experts on NAS units, and they've all seemed to be very impressed with the build quality and what this offers for the price. Now, if you're looking at getting into a NAS system and you're interested in this ecosystem, Ugreen is having a 15% off sale right now. My name's Keaton. I'm sharing my journey and what I've learned along the way. If you want to continue growing together, consider subscribing. This is just the beginning of the conversation.